Welcome back. And we are going to be discussing something that may seem a little bit heavy, but how to rebuild trust after a heated conflict.
I heard a saying once that trust is gained in drops and lost in buckets. And the other thing in a marriage in particular, what trust builds is intimacy. And I think in a marriage, you can make trust and intimacy synonymous. That you can gain intimacy in drops and lose it in buckets. In one fight, one argument, one conversation, you can lose a lot of work that had gone in to build something. Because with intimacy, people have to be so vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
And when you feel hurt, when you're vulnerable, it's very easy to clam up and to not want to open back up again.
Yeah.
You want to do the introduction for it?
Sure. So trust is fragile, but it is repairable. The scripture reference that comes from is Matthew 6:14, which says, "For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you." And so I've heard it said before by many couples and friends that we've talked to. They broke my trust. I will never forgive them. They broke my trust too many times. I just can't trust. I can't trust them. And what you're doing is you're creating something called an inner vow. Every time someone hurts you, every time someone doesn't meet your expectation, every word that may have been taken the wrong way, as we've said before in a previous episode, if the tone was off, what you're doing is when those instances are coming at you and you're already in a vulnerable state because you're in conflict, right? That's not our nature. Our nature is communicating, connecting, because we're made in the image of God and that's His nature. So it actually goes against how we were created. And so none of us enjoy being in conflict. None of us enjoy being betrayed because we're connecting. We've made relationships. And so when that's broken, there's things called inner vows that are made. And what's an inner vow? An inner vow is almost like a soul tie to the mind that says, I'm going to put a wall up in this instance to protect myself from getting hurt again. It can happen as young as, your childhood years. And it can continue to happen as, we call it the formative years, but it can continue to happen as you go through relationships, because from human to human, interaction to interaction, you're constantly having to learn. You're learning to communicate, you're learning to connect, you're learning to understand. And so when those instances happen and those inner vows are made, as soon as those lines are crossed, it's like, that's a no-touch zone for me. I'm done. And I don't even want to go any further with this person.
Right. I think it's a valid question to ask is, and most people probably never even thought about this, but how much should you trust people? And you should be thinking, what do I mean by that? If you trust people to carry you and not fail you, you're setting them up for failure because they will fail you, just like you will fail people.
Mm-hmm.
The best way to explain it is love people, but trust God. Because when you make that vow, I'm never going to trust them again because it hurt or whatever. What you're really saying is they hurt me so much, I don't know if God can put me back together.
Mm. Yeah.
And God's saying you love people regardless of how they act. And you trust me to put you back together, that I'm big enough to put you back together if somebody hurts you.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, regardless of how somebody hurts you. Is what He says. Now, He also understands, and He's a gracious God, and He also walks through some of that because He understands there's some real challenging hurts in there. But the thing about an inner vow that, like Megan brought up, when you put a wall up, a wall keeps things from coming in to hurt you, but it also stops things from going out. So you can't truly love if you have walls up. And because God's a loving Father and a perfect teacher, and He wants to refine us to look more like Him, which He doesn't have walls like that. Otherwise, He never would have gone to the cross. Because true love is reckless abandonment. And the fact that it's not safe in the aspect of looking for self-preservation. It's looking for the sacrificial zeal of the true betterment of another. Which, whether it's to my demise, I'm going to do what's best for you. Which is what He did. Christ on the cross.
But you will never have that attitude if you already in your mind are putting up walls. No one's ever going to hurt me. Because again, like Michael was saying, if this person hurts me, not even God can put me back together. And ultimately, that's what you're saying.
Yep. That I'm too broken for God to fix. But in reality, that's spiritualized pride. Because what it's saying is, my life is so valuable that you can't pay for that.
Yeah. Okay. Chew on that for a little bit. We're going to move to the first key point. The first key point is seek forgiveness and offer reassurance. Now, what does that mean? Seek forgiveness. And we talked about in a previous episode.
And this is in the context of a heated
conversation.
In a marriage.
And so seek forgiveness. Even if you're the one that's innocent, right?
Less guilty.
Yeah,
Less guilty.
Whatever you want to call it. You're both in a place where
I've seen you both, you're guilty.
Yes. But seek forgiveness. That means, and we said it previously, own your wrong. Intentional or unintentional. Own your wrong. If I showed up 5 minutes late for a coffee date and that pushed you back, 10 minutes, I'm sorry. I messed up. I truly should have been here. I didn't fulfill that commitment. Own what you did, but seek out forgiveness. Go looking for it. Even if you think that you were the one in the right.
Why?
Because He first forgave us.
And because it showed. Why does that matter, though, to people?
Why does seeking out forgiveness matter?
And why does it, in God, the scripture you gave is a perfect example.
Because you're putting them first. You're putting their needs before yours. And that's truly agape love. It's sacrificial love.
You truly love them.
You truly care about them because you want, as he was saying, to my detriment, I want what's best for you. Because the focus is no longer on you being wronged, but understanding that you're seeking reconciliation.
So
it's the inverted kingdom.
Mm-hmm. So you're seeking forgiveness and you're offering reassurance to them that you're truly sorry. And offering the reassurance doesn't have to be, no, I really, really am sorry. It's the genuineness.
Right. And there's action, right? There's action that follows. The action needs to follow the commitment. So if you...
Because the proof's in the pudding, right?
Well, and if you talk to any CEO, and I say CEO. So my dad was part of the hiring team for Dow Chemical. And in the earlier years of their training for human resources, they gave them the acronym of STARS. What was the situation? When presented with a question, reflect on what you did. How did you respond to it? And the acronym that they would train them in is STARS. What was the situation? What was the task that was at hand? What was the action that you took? And what was the result of that action? So if you are truly seeking forgiveness, what was the situation? What was the task that was not met? What was your action? Good, bad, indifferent, negative, positive, involved or not involved, what was the action that you took? It has to be your actions. And what was the result, or what is the result that you want to reassure them of? And the point that my dad would always get across to me was previous performance will predict future response. And so he said he would automatically just put like a line or like a dot through when people would say, well, I would, because it shows that they don't show competence in that area. Competence meaning effective, methods of being able to execute a situation. That he said they would show that if they say, I would, well, this is what I would do. Well, but have you done it though? And that's what the acronym was for in that aspect. But the point is, seek reassurance, or offer reassurance, seek forgiveness.
And building what you said, follow through on what you said, and your actions afterwards, which is point 2, need to be consistent with what you said.
And don't look for them to give you a gold star.
Right. You do it whether they recognize, your spouse recognizes it or not. It's consistent. And if you think about these are all the characteristics of God, right?
Right.
He's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. He is consistent. That's why you can trust him, is because he's consistent. So if you want to build trust back, your spouse in intimacy, right? Because we're talking about trust is synonymous with intimacy. You can only have true intimacy when someone can feel vulnerable. Someone can only feel vulnerable with you if they can feel like they can predict or understand how you're going to respond and trust you in that. And when they say trust you with their emotions, trust you with their feelings, means you're not going to bite their head off. You're not going to dismiss them. You're not going to overreact or underreact. And the way you show that is through consistent behavior. I mean, every person listening to this has inconsistent friends. Then you don't share stuff with your inconsistent friends because you don't know what to expect. The consistency that follows up with the action speaks more than what you said.
Yeah.
And then third, the third point, we already talked about trust is synonymous with intimacy. And true intimacy comes through honest communication. Because true intimacy comes through sharing what's going on in your mind, will, and emotion. And opening up so your spouse can help you process through it, as well as just experience it to see where you're at. Because when they truly understand who you are and how you process and how you think, then they can help love you better, because they actually know where they can fill in the gaps to help you or just be a better spouse for you.
So I want to bring up a little exercise where honest communication. So I'm going to tell Michael, I'm going to make a statement. And this is in a scenario right after a heated conversation or a heated...
fellowship?
Yes. And the way that you build honest communication is, first you listen. You listen to the heart of what they're trying to tell you. So I'm going to be very vague. But like I said, here's the setup. I come home, I'm tired, the kids have been screaming in the car, no one's been listening. We went to a doctor's appointment, or I went to drop something off this literally happened yesterday. I went to go drop something off at a store, at the Amazon or the UPS store, and there was someone very well known in the community, and ran into her. We had a conversation. My children acted like The Greatest Show from The Greatest Showman. It was a circus. It was embarrassing. I was very embarrassed, and I said some very hurtful things to my children because of their behavior, and I was upset. So I come home and I start loading the washer. Michael comes in and he attempts to give me a kiss, and I turn around, and this is my response. Again, this is after a heated conversation. nobody cares about this house. Nobody cares about me. They don't care about me. The kids think that it's a joke. It's embarrassing. And I honestly feel like I don't even want to be here right now. I want to leave. So now immediately his reaction, he can do one of two things. One, he can say, well, sucks for you. Sorry you had a bad day. Or two, he can practice active listening and truly listen to the heart of what I'm trying to say. Am I mad at the kids?
Yes.
Yes. Am I mad at the house being messy?
Yes.
Yes. Am I frustrated that
you don't feel supported?
I don't feel supported?
Yes.
Yes.
Are you frustrated that you're on your 12th load of laundry? Yes. Are you frustrated that we still probably got to cook dinner? Yes. Are you frustrated the kids are probably still running amok in the living room? Yes. All of those are true, right? But none of those are abnormal. Meaning, frankly, making dinner is one of our responsibilities as a parent. Doing the laundry is a responsibility that he's entrusted to us. All of those are things he's asked us to do, right? So the real issue that she's frustrated with isn't those. But if I respond to those, I'm not responding to the root. I'm responding to the symptoms. Mm-hmm. So what do I say? Well, I understand that you're a little frustrated right now. What happened today? Because obviously that is a scream for nobody cares about what I'm having to go through. So what do? I open up the door for her to tell me what happened. Nothing. I'm just fine. I'm fine.
I'll get over it. It's fine. It's just me. I'm fine. I'll get over it.
I know you will. You do. But I would really like to hear how your day went. Because you're acknowledging that she's a strong, independent woman. But I still care.
Without sarcasm.
But I still care. And capable. And I still care. But I choose to want to know what happened. Right? And sometimes this takes 3 or 4 iterations. Right? No, really, I'm fine. Are you sure? What's wrong with me is that you're asking me what's wrong with me. And if you don't stop asking me what's wrong with me, you're going to be the one with the problem. Okay. And so then I'll just start going about my business, doing what needs to be done, right? Getting the kids ready, getting lunches ready, getting dinner ready. Waiting for the opportunity, but in that moment. So 2 things can happen. There's a path right there. She can open up and start sharing, and we can share that path. Or she does what I said, and she clams up even more, right? And starts deflecting onto you. That tells you 2 things. Both things tell you what's going on. If she opens up and starts talking, something really frustrated you, but there's a bridge you already have built here with intimacy, and she's starting to tell you what's going on. You be quiet, you listen, and you start working on the issue. And we can share that leg in a second, because that one's a little more straightforward than the second one. The second one is, frankly, she's not ready to talk about it yet, and she still has trust issues with you in that area. Or she still has trust issues within herself about being vulnerable in that area. And those are the ones you need to have, your spidey senses need to go off. Because what happens at that point, you give it to the Lord. Because that's the moment you have to choose. Am I doing this because I want a result and I want my night to go better? Like, I don't want to hear a screaming wife or a frustrated wife or spouse all night. I don't want to be in a cold bed tonight. I don't want to deal with the frustration all day. It's my first day off in 7 days. I don't want to deal with a frustrated house. Or are you truly wanting the betterment for your spouse? So in that moment, let's say Megan's like, nothing, I'm fine. Are you really? You seem like everything. What's wrong with me is you keep asking what's wrong with me.
But I want to bring something up.
Hang on, let me make this one, then we can make that.
Okay.
You switch your mindset because she's giving you the prayer request of how to pray for her. Mm-hmm. Because God's the only one that can touch her heart and start to soften it. You love her. Remember I said love and trust? You love her in spite of the frustration that she's having, in spite of the way, regardless of how she treats you, or your spouse, how your spouse treats you. You love them and keep loving them how God would love them. Then you give it to God. And you know what I say under my breath? Lord, your daughter's really frustrated right now. Mm-hmm. I'll do whatever I need to try to help with this situation. Lord, show me if it's something that I did that I need to work on. And if not, show me what I can do to help her release this area of insecurity or whatever, to be able to move forward and to help her process it. But ultimately, Lord, help her see your perspective on this situation. And when you start handing it to the Lord and praying for them, He'll break the walls down and then open the doors up. Because then 30 minutes later, she's like, well, you know what happened today? No, I don't. What happened?
But that's what I wanted to add in there, is because Michael has taken the time and still takes the time to study me, he understands what language I need. Meaning, what love language am I speaking? Or what love language am I calling out for? And so currently right now, in that aspect, for example, if I keep saying, nothing, I'm fine, he immediately starts doing acts of service. And it's not reluctant. He's truly trying to show me, I'm going to love you through this situation, and I'm going to be here for you when it's done. Does that mean, am I giving the gold card for every husband to start doing chores when every time your house gets angry, your wife gets angry? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, learn how your wife is speaking. Learn what she's asking for. I'm asking for intimacy. I just want someone to hear me in that moment. And what he does by showing me that love language, because right now that's my greatest love language. And it's been, I think last month we had the conversation, what's your love language right now? But that's intimacy. And so by him doing little things like that around the house, I know, number one, that he truly cares about me. And number two, he's communicating with me. Even though there's no words, he's communicating, I love you and I want to support you and be here for you, even in your hard moment.
Through the action.